Hassan al-Buhari, second.
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Ali Mohammed Al-Mumini. I represent Nasarawa Autonomous Constituency. I stand to support the motion tabled by my colleagues and support the protocol.
Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Honorable Sununu.
Mr. Speaker, let me first of all start by commending the House for the privilege to present this motion. A motion of urgent public importance calling on the federal government to declare state of emergency on the control of outbreak of Lassa fever in Nigeria. The House notes that the recent outbreak of Lassa fever is a serious threat to the life and economic viability of Nigerians and Nigeria. Lassa fever was first identified in Lassa town in Borno State. This is transmitted by mosquito and rat. Also note that the disease is endemic in Nigeria, with periodic outbreaks associated with higher mortality. Further note that from 1st January, 15th of April 2018, a total of 1,849 suspected cases has been reported from 21 states according to World Health Organization, out of which 413 were confirmed. There were 114 deaths with case fatality rate of 25.4%, among which were 8 medical and health workers. What is that in January 1st and 24th of this month, a total of 195 confirmed cases were reported from 11 state countries, with 29 deaths as reported by Nigeria Center of Disease Control, and figure is likely to rise. And among mortality were also doctors and other health workers. Also, that despite Nigeria's ability, effectively and timely diagnose some suspected cases, there were only 5 laboratories with the capacity to diagnose disease in the country, of a population of almost 100 million. Furthermore, that despite population and land mass of Nigeria, with lots of environmental challenges, there are only limited treatment centers for Lassa fever in the country. These are Igor Specialist Hospital, Federal Medical Center O, and LSQMA, Federal Children's Hospital of Abakaliki. Focusing on that disease is endemic in Nigeria, with a periodic outbreak. The emergency preparedness to handle outbreaks has been optimal, with an improved capacity of medical team, wide availability of personal protective equipment for health workers, and higher level of searches toward elimination and control of Lassa fever. This is to ensure prompt case diagnosis, management, and other response activities, thereby reducing the number of deaths. The House therefore resolved to urge the federal government to declare state of emergency on control and prevention of Lassa fever outbreak in Nigeria. 2. The House also urged the federal government to provide at least one fully equipped center with capacity to train personnel, diagnose, support, provide care, and treatment of Lassa fever by political government in Nigeria. Third, urge the Ministry of Health to adopt collaboration and response to the epidemic with relevant key government ministers and departments in the control of Lassa fever spread. 4. Also urge the government to ensure adequate compensation of all health workers that die or fall or fell ill due to contact diseases while running healthcare services. 5. The Director House to healthcare services investigate the level of federal government response to current epidemic and report back to the forward and ensure compliance with regulation. And so, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Honorable Bagos. Just very briefly, so we can move on. Just highlight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's remember that Lassa was first identified in Nigeria. It is estimated at this time, after 7 years of research and education in Nigeria, we should have masters in management of care and progress of fever. But unfortunately, whenever Lassa strikes down, we became so centralized, so disorganized, that we cannot effectively come together to fight our disease. We need a multifactorial approach that was applied during Ebola. In Lassa, we need high-end association, and particularly strengthened that. What comes next is isolation. Unfortunately, we are not around most of our hospitals. Isolation centers are not optimal in terms of capacity and cases. Most of these isolation centers are our hospitals lack personal protective equipment that will protect the doctors and other health workers managing the case. And then after isolation, we also take sample for some sample to confirm cases. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, only 3 laboratories or 5 laboratories so far can effectively confirm cases of Lassa fever. What is the challenge? Means there's going to be a lot of some countries that we're waiting, and this will long time to confirm that diagnosis, and thereby further exposing patients risk or unnecessarily isolated patients that are not possible. After that diagnosis, also come care and support. Also, we need to have a capacity that health workers can actually manage the cases. And then after that, we have a mechanism that will use the stigmatization of manipulation so that they can also be incorporated fully back into society. Otherwise, we tend to suffer stigmatization. Therefore, there is need for the country to have at least one geopolitical center that can effectively tackle the issue of Lassa fever in Nigeria so that it can provide both capacity training, management, and case diagnosis. The issue of waiting for only 5 laboratories to serve 200 million people of this country at a time of emergency screening call for question. Therefore, hope that the House will support this motion so that we can effectively hand cases of emergency whenever it arises. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. Chief Whip, please.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Honorable Mohammed Mono. I represent Mariam Mono, Federal Constituency of North State. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, I have a matter of urgent public importance that I am bringing for the House.
Honorable Benella.
For this very important and urgent as moved by the Chief Whip of.
Those in support, please, of the motion, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable members, this motion is co-sponsored by a host of other members. May I crave the indulgence of this House to read the co-sponsors of the motion before I formally move the motion. And their names are Honorable Zakaria from Adamawa State, Honorable Inkiruka Onochocha, Honorable Ibrahim Mustafa Aliu, Honorable Tobias Fechuku, Honorable Ndidu Elumelu, Honorable Babaji Benson, Honorable Kumo Bello, and Honorable Yusuf Gagi. Just to underscore the importance of this motion and the fact that the security challenges that we are having now is not only restricted to the Northeast, but is across the nooks and crannies of this country. So in the course of their contribution to this motion, they will highlight the security challenges that is facing their respective zone, so that the motion will be all encompassing at the end of the day, and the prayer will be all encompassing at the end of the day, with a view to adequately tackling the security challenges that we are having across the nooks and crannies of this country. Mr. Speaker, the motion reads thus: the House notes that attacks by Boko Haram insurgents in the Northeast zone have lingered for more than 7 years. Recalls that when the Muhammadu Buhari-led administration came into power in 2015, the activities of insurgents were reduced to the barest minimum, resulting in improved security in Borno and Yobe states. Also recalls that the feat achieved by the Nigerian armed forces has led to increased economic activities within the Northeast zone. Regrets that recently the Boko Haram insurgents, who were relegated to the background, are now unleashing terror in Borno and Yobe states. Aware that recently the insurgents have forced the Nigerian military to cross traffic on the Maiduguri-Damaturu road for some days. Also note that the Maiduguri-Damaturu road is the only access from Maiduguri to other parts of Nigeria. Worried that the closure of the road has left travelers stranded and affected business activities in Maiduguri, and is thus causing untold hardships to the people. Disturbed that the closure of the road is an indication that the Boko Haram insurgents have seized the road and attacked communities on that axis. Also disturbed that the incessant attacks on the communities along the Damaturu-Maiduguri road axis had forced the residents of the communities to flee to refugee camps in Maiduguri for safety. Also regrets that the increased presence of the fleeing residents of the affected communities in the refugee camps will worsen the existing humanitarian crisis in the camps. Cognizance of the need to increase military presence and patrols in the Maiduguri-Damaturu road in order to restore the place to normalcy and earn the confidence of citizens carrying out their daily business activities on the road, resolves to urge President Muhammadu Buhari to direct the Nigerian Army and Air Force to intensify checks on the road. Also urge the Chief of Army and Air Staff to relocate to Maiduguri until relative peace is achieved in the Northeast. Mandate the committees on the Army and the Air Force to ensure compliance. I so move.
Honorable Osai or Honorable Benila, which one of you? Okay, Honorable Osai.
You know, it's my privilege to be second the Chief Whip, who is a father in this house. I so second the motion as moved by the Chief Whip of this house, Honorable Osai, Ndokwa Kwani Federal Constituency.
Those in support, or rather, yes, we've already passed. Chief Whip, give us a quick synopsis.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, foreign members, as you are all aware, and it is in the public domain, that as a result of the gallantry exhibited by the Nigerian armed forces when this administration came into being in 2015, relative peace has been achieved in the Northeast to the extent that territories that are hitherto under the firm control and jurisdiction of the Boko Haram insurgents have been liberated and normal activities have resumed. But I want to I regret to announce that of recent there is resurgence in the activities of the Boko Haram insurgents to the extent of threatening the territorial integrity of this country, as manifested by the consistent attack on the Maiduguri-Damaturu road. And this Maiduguri-Damaturu road is the only axis that Maiduguri and Yobe State have to the other parts of the country, and also links Nigeria with the Republic of Cameroon and Republic of Chad. If this ugly scenario is allowed to go, not only social activities, but business activities will be adversely affected, considering the fact that the economy in the northeast, particularly in Borno State, which is the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgent, is already in a state of comatose. And if this single road that will give access to economic activities is challenged, then the economy will completely be grounded to a halt. So it was against this backdrop that this motion was sponsored, and then other colleagues, their names were mentioned, whose names were mentioned in the motion, would also contribute with regard to the security challenges that they are facing in their respective zone and in other parts of the country, so that at the end of the day, the motion will be all-encompassing and holistic enough to tackle the security challenges that we are having across the nooks and crannies of the country. And Mr. Speaker, I also want to add that it's not only the Maiduguri-Damaturu road, even the road Maiduguri-Baga that leads to my constituency is seriously challenged, because the last time when there was an attack in Monguno, we had to use helicopter to go to Monguno, because there is no way we can go by road. There's every possibility the insurgents will ambush us. And then Maiduguri-Biu road is equally challenged. In fact, it has been permanently closed. It was only last week that the Chief of Army Staff directed that the road should be open for vehicular activities. Ditto Maiduguri-Gambaru road. That road is still accessible, but it is done in such a way that about 300, 400 vehicles will congregate for about 1 week. Then they will be escorted by armored personnel carriers, soldiers and what have you to Gambaru. You cannot fly the road individually like that. And the vehicles have to congregate for about 1 week. Then soldiers will come and to escort them for the purpose of carrying out their economic activity. So this is how serious the situation is, coupled with the recent closure and then the challenges we are facing along the Maiduguri-Damaturu road. And that is what necessitated this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Defense, what do you have to say?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Baba Jimmy Benson. I represent the very good people of the Ikorodu Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly endorse what the Chief Whip has said. The fight against the insurgents has waned, and we need to know reasons why this is happening. As a matter of fact, we had contacted the service chiefs through the CDS. They're supposed to come and address the Committee of Defense and relevant committees on the state and progress or otherwise they've made in this fight against insurgency. So this motion has come at a great time. It will also give us the opportunity to deliberate and argue. So whatever resolutions that we reach today, would like you, my deputy will also raise an amendment to make the resolutions more weighty. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, Chairman Business and Rules. We'll go like this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I am Abubakar Samfulata. I represent Bruniwa, Krika Samba, Guri Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker. I'm from Jigawa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is really unfortunate that the war against Boko Haram and indeed all the several battles that are taking place all over the country have become what I can describe as an enterprise. It is very, very clear that the dramatist personnel in the war theater in the Northeast are not interested in ending the war, because the war itself has become a very fat cow that is being milked on daily basis, and people are generating a lot of money. Otherwise, there is no reason whatsoever, Mr. Speaker, for the embarrassing reversals of the successes achieved, especially from 2015 to date. Mr. Speaker, part of the resolution of this House must include the total withdrawal of all these armed forces in that area and their immediate replacement with a new breed of soldiers to be deployed immediately, because some of them have overstayed in that place. They are tired of the war. They want to go back home, and in line with the tradition of war and deployments, when a soldier is deployed to an area and he is tired, he is replaced immediately. You cannot take a soldier to the war front and leave him there for several years. So, Mr. Speaker, this war has dragged too long. In fact, the civil war lasted for only 3 years. Why should a war involving ragtag, lumping vagabonds last for 7 or 10 years? So it's really unfortunate. So part of our resolution must be the total withdrawal of all the armed forces in that area and their replacement. Thank you.
Honorable Odebo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleague, Odebo Misegun is my name. I represent the good people of Surulere Ogolo Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, the truth must be told. This is the time for us to stand for this nation. This is the time for you, as the leader of this House of Representatives, to make some statement that will save this nation. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I totally agree with the submission of our colleagues in the motion, but I want us to go deep more than what my colleagues just raised in the motion. Mr. Speaker, what is actually wrong? What is really going on over there? We have achieved a lot so far, but for now, it's like we are going back to where we are coming from. Those people that are leading even the army, Mr. Speaker, for us even to retain them for this long, in the comfort, and those people who are there, who are facing the war, also they have been there for a long time. There's need for the committee also to go deep into this, what is really going on in the army. Mr. Speaker, it is not like this in the past. If you serve your tenure and it is time for you to go, you go. But it has come to another system now that a chief of army staff can stay for the eternity itself. Mr. Speaker, when you serve your nation, and for a time, then another person will bring another new innovation, new idea for us to resign the architectures of the security of this nation. Otherwise, we are playing with the security of this nation and the life of our people. It is very pathetic. Honestly, for somebody barbaric, it has been in the past. We never hear about this again. All of a sudden, come again that people are beheaded and they are showing it all over the nation, all over the world. What our nation is becoming. Mr. Speaker, there's need for us to stand up and direct the design of the architecture of this nation. Those who are facing, who are in the shadow with the responsibilities of organizing the army, there's need for us to do something about it. Otherwise, something will happen and it will be very disastrous for this nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Chairman Army Namdas.
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Abdurazak Namdas. I represent the people of Ganye, Jada, Tongoma, Ebelwa. I am from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, just like previous speakers, I also support the motion moved by our Chief Whip. Mr. Speaker, I want to share one or two perspectives to the story. It is very true that in recent days, we have seen heightened attacks from insurgents, even bandits, kidnappers, and what have you. It is really worrisome that even from my state, Mr. Speaker, the things is getting out of hand. That the Kan chairman and Michika local government was also murdered by the insurgents. But Mr. Chairman, I want to say that based on the previous speaker, particularly our chairman rules, he is very passionate about this country. But I want to also observe that we may not, the number of personnel we have in the army is not such that when you withdraw all the armed forces in the northeast to replace them with a new man, may not be a very strategic decision. But I agree with him that when people stay too long in a place, they need to be replaced. It's very, very, very sure. But to move all of them out of that place may be counterproductive, Mr. Speaker, because sometimes you also require experience in those places, people who know the place. So when you move people out completely and replace them with a new set of people, you are further confusing the fight on terror. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that because Section 217 of the Constitution of Nigeria allows the president to invite the armed forces, the police, and other security agencies to attend to internal security issues. And that is why we can bring the army, whose traditional function is to safeguard the sovereignty and integrity of the country. But because of the internal crisis, the army are always there to also fight the war. But Mr. Speaker, I want to say that where we were talking about the army to do more, which I agree that they have to do more, we also have to pay more attention also to the police, because that has also been neglected. Because the police need to be trained. Mr. Speaker, I come from the northeast. If you hear Goza Town used to be the training heap of the mobile force. In fact, Mr. Speaker, Goza Town, the training they get in Goza was even equivalent to what the army get in other places. But you can see that even Goza Town is a challenge that you cannot even get that easily. So therefore, we have to go back to give the police the required training also and the equipment, so that we must not rely only on the army alone. Because once army win war, it is expected that they should move away and allow the police to take over. But in this case, if you allow the army to go and the police to take over, in fact, the communities will be asking you to bring back the army to that community. I agree, Mr. Speaker, that this decision is timely, that we should support that and allow and ask the military to do more within the confines of the law. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Gibson, did you? Okay, Honorable Zachary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Honorable Zakaria Adeoda Nyampa, member representing Madagali Michika Federal Constituency from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute because it has affected me directly from the northeast, from Michika, where my Kan chairman was beheaded. Mr. Speaker, at that moment, we know the Nigerian army have tried to repel the Boko Haram on that fateful day. But Mr. Speaker, the challenge is the number of army in my community. As a very big local government that has 16 electoral wards with population of over 1 million residents, we have less than 30 Nigerian army. And
the challenge is that then even the armies in Michika local government doesn't have a single patrol vehicle as we are talking now. They don't have the army personnel carrier vehicle, and as other contributors have spoken, Mr. Speaker, some of those armies have gone through several challenges. And Mr. Speaker, you as a leader in this house have supported the Nigerian army with all their budget to ensure that they meet up with the challenge, especially with the lack of adequate equipment to fight those insurgents. Mr. Speaker, my countryman that has been beheaded by this Boko Haram has a large family. I want to plead with this house that one of the things we could do is to observe a minute silence for this beheaded countryman that has served his people and is living among his family before he was kidnapped and he was killed. Mr. Speaker, we also have to ask the Committee on Army to make sure that the Army made up the needs of every community, especially we that are from the border area, that are coming from a vulnerable society, the Minchika, the Madagali constituency, and other part of Borno State, that we are in border, we are being attacked on daily basis. Some of the things that are happening, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, even the media are not even aware of some of the challenges we are having. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to plead that we ask the army also to establish at least a military barrack in Madagali, because the distance between Madagali and the next military barrack is in Bama and in Mobi. So, Mr. Speaker, we are pleading that this house will look at our community, because the killing of one person can result to serious security threat in our community. So I rise to support, and I pray that this house will use its power to ensure that army deploy adequate infrastructure, adequate equipment, and adequate personnel to save our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Before we move to this column, Honorable Zakaria raises an interesting point about lack of vehicles. The chairman defense or deputy chairman, I thought there were some new locally made vehicles that was even sturdier and more durable than the foreign ones that have been produced by the Nigerian army. What happened to those?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much once again, Mr. Speaker. I remain Babajimi Benson. Yes, the Ezugu MRAP is what you are talking about, Mr. Speaker. They only made 6, and the 6 have been deployed to the theater of war. We believe that more should be made, and that is why the budget, the budget exercise that went through, we were not able to get approval for the entire budget that most of these agencies required due to the paucity of funds. So it is in this wise that we said we should invite the service chiefs and the minister to come before us again. Maybe we can consider a contingency arrangement whereby we can kill this insurgency once and for all. We're proposing that we ask them to submit a request of more critical equipment that can nail this matter. They will give them a deadline and they sign off, and we hope that this will, once the monies are approved and disbursed to them and they get the equipment in record time, that this matter can be put to an end. Before we do that, we also need to do a needs assessment. Like he said, they don't have a single patrol vehicle within his federal constituency. We need to find out what the needs assessment is and be able to allocate or encourage them to allocate resources so that this matter can be brought to an urgent end. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I'm glad that you're already meeting with them. Please, as soon as you are done with the committee, we would like for you to present a report to the House for action, an actionable report, because there's no point here us debating this and we don't take action. So that report on the needs assessment and what they need will inform part of whatever we do here in the House. Honorable the Deputy Chairman, I'll come back to you when we get to this column. So let's just take it. We'll do Honorable Yeleman, Jaha, Reverend, and Honorable Gagdi, but we'll take it bottom up from Honorable Gagdi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Yusuf Adamu Gagdi. I represent Panshinkanke Kanam. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, this motion is timely and it is very, very important. But what is disturbing me, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that Parliament air their opinions and take decisions on sensitive matters that affect the lives and properties of Nigerians, but the decision seems to end in this hallowed chamber. Mr. Speaker, I think we need to push harder to ensure that positions taken by we here are implemented to the latter. Anything that compromises the security and lives and properties of the Nigerian citizen, I think, Mr. Speaker, should not be taken for granted. Maiduguri, Borno, Boko Haram, and this and that. Banditry, kidnapping, unknown gunmen, and this and that. On daily basis, in the four angles of this country, should be condemnable, and it should equally be unacceptable by the Parliament. But it is equally not about condemning. Mr. Speaker, it's about enforcing a decision that will stop us from screaming further and call for condemnings of actions of this Boko Haram, of banditry, of kidnappers, etc., etc. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I must commend you and appreciate you today for honoring the people of Panshinkanke Kanam Federal Constituency, because in your speech, the honorable members may not know, while you mentioned Dacia, while you mentioned that young man, that his video was all over the social media, who was killed, murdered in a very ungodly manner by Boko Haram in Borno State. Mr. Speaker, that young man was on his way to school, like you mentioned. He was kidnapped, nowhere to be found. That young man was one of my student campaign structure who know me personally. But today we have no access to use some of them, even to reward them for campaigning for us to be where we are today. Mr. Speaker, aside of that, citizens of Panshinkanke Kanam Federal Constituency, Barikiladi local government, and other local governments in Plateau are still under captivity, that they were kidnapped just this December, either on their way coming back to Jos for Christmas or on their way returning back to school for their businesses. We have more than 5 citizens of Plateau State that are still under Boko Haram captivity. When can this issue end, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we always talk. Last 3-4 months, 2 citizens of Mangu local government from Plateau State were murdered again in an ungodly manner by this Boko Haram. Mr. Speaker, people will continue to ask questions. We must take decisions that are pragmatic. Mr. Speaker, we shouldn't allow a situation whereby ordinary Nigerian citizens will be tired of government and be tired of parliament and be tired of us for speaking on daily basis about insecurity without taking effective measures that will bring this issue of different dimension to security situation of Nigeria to the barest minimum. Mr. Speaker, yes, we may have our own reservation for all the service chiefs. When it comes to military, Mr. Speaker, it's not only the army. It is the coalition of both the Air Force, the Navy, and the Land Army that are maintaining this issue of insecurity in Nigeria. But yes, Mr. Speaker, our comment should not portray the Nigerian military as totally, not committed to their duties. Mr. Speaker, we have young men and women in Sambisa Forest. The navies are there, the air force are there, the armies are there, who leave their family to go and ensure that they have filed for the security problems of this country. If the heads are rotten, we must appreciate other segments of the Nigerian security architect that are doing well, that are making sacrifice, that are losing their lives on daily basis, because even the armies are dying, the air force are dying, the navy are dying, the police are dying, most of them in the course of committing service in this country. We must commend them and we must appreciate them. Mr. Speaker, we have to be talking now about solutions, pragmatic solutions, not solutions that will stuck and at the end of the day they are not implemented. And I have a suggestion, Mr. Speaker. We need, is either, if you say that we should make consultation as parliament or as government in times of, for instance, asking the Armed Force Committee to conduct a joint security consultation with stakeholders of this country who may have reasonable ideas that can metamorphose into action and present it on the floor of this house. At the end of the day, we may not know all the 360 of us. When we open our doors for people to participate, when even government itself cannot shy away from its ego by allowing a national security conference to be conducted, that does not mean an indictment on the Nigerian government. It only means that Nigerian governments are recognizing the fact that there are better Nigerians that have ideas to contribute about solving the security situation of this country. Mr. Speaker, there's a sensitive nature to some of the videos that you make comment about. How can a Boko Haram kill a citizen of Plateau, for instance? And before shooting the man, you say you are revenging until you wipe out all the Christian people in Plateau. It brings religious disharmony. It instigates misunderstanding amongst our various faiths. Mr. Speaker, until and unless, if we are here to speak for our constituents, I don't care talking for the people of Plateau, talking for the people of Kwanshinkanke constituency, even at the risk of sounding immodest to the federal government. The federal government strategy in times of maintaining the security of this country must be looked at, must be adjusted, must be changed. Nigerians are dying, and it is unacceptable to the generality of people of this country. Until and unless, Mr. Speaker, we shy away from all political sentiment, tribal sentiment, religious sentiment, and work up to the responsibility of talking in such a manner that the security situation in this country will be controlled. Do not hope, Mr. Speaker, that we have timeline or future expectation in controlling insecurity problem in Nigeria. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, as usual, for giving me the opportunity to say my mind in this regard.
Thank you, Honorable Gagdi. If you notice, my closing remarks was to commend our men and women in uniform for the daily sacrifice that they make. So I am in full total agreement with you that our military, our men and women in uniform are doing so much out there, and we must continue to appreciate them. It is noteworthy that Honorable Gagdi is a Muslim from Plateau State, and that tells you, the contents of his debate tells you that the war of religion that sometimes afflicts us is not is isolated to a few elements who misunderstand religious issues. Thank you for your contribution, Honorable Shetima. And Honorable Gagdi, you can bring your amendment your suggestion by way of amendment before we close this motion.
Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable colleagues, Mr. Speaker, in fact, my heart really bleeds when we talk of security in this country, particularly to those of us from the Northeast, as being said by my colleagues from the Northeast. Mr. Speaker, while we were away on our vacation, we were all aware how terrible the only motorable highway from Damaturu to Maiduguri has turned to be. A lot of people have been killed, including the security forces themselves. The innocent civilian commuters applying during the festive periods were all, most of them being kidnapped and killed. And almost all part of the other part of the country, we have seen how things were so bad to the extent that it was yesterday the Senate President himself in the Red Chamber observed and confessed that there is a security problem in this nation. Mr. Speaker, we have talked enough of this security issue day in, day out, whenever we sit in this particular chamber. Yet, the problem or the solutions to those problems are yet to be found out. Mr. Speaker, these approach tactics of our military men or the law enforcement agencies must be changed. If you are aware of what has been going on there in the northeast, you will find out that Maiduguri, the state capital of Borno, Damaturu, the state capital of Yobe, and all other major towns are being surrounded by a ditch. Military bases are located at our entrance, particularly when you come to Damaturu, you'll be seeing checkpoints, whereas the entire town has been surrounded by a ditch, just to protect ourselves, which shows that it's a defensive measure. Mr. Speaker, those guys coming into the towns or coming to the highway to kidnap our innocent Nigerians are coming out from somewhere. And the issue of offensive approach is not being deployed there. I don't think this thing will come to an end. Secondly, our vigilantes must be supported. When those from the southwest governors decided to launch a motorcon, people were complaining. I was surprised. We are becoming helpless. There is no any effort geared towards protecting the lives and property of our, innocent citizens will not be deployed wherever we can get it. If you throw some mine into the river, if you, place a steel with fire, you will catch it for him to come out. There's no point for us to be wasting our time. It's high time, Mr. Speaker, we call a spade a spade. This security issue in this nation is beyond all what we are discussing here, Mr. Speaker. You, as our leader here, the Red Chamber being led by the Senate President, you must go to the President, invite the service chiefs, sit one-on-one, let them tell you what is the problem. Even if it means for us to put all the entire resources to protect the lives and property of our nation, it's very important than talking always on the newspapers. Go to social media, see how people are calling us. Because they're blaming us that our children are studying outside. We are traveling through airport. You are aware when some people are calling for the complete closure of the international airport of Maiduguri, so that everybody should be on watch, so that they will be kidnapped and killed. We have option. That's why we don't bother. This is what they used to call us. There was a time one young man went to the social media telling us that bunch of stupid idiot senators and reps from Borno and Yobe, simply because we are not saying anything. So we are tired, Mr. Speaker. This talking will not take us anywhere. We need action. We need action, please. Even if it means we'll deploy all the resources we have in Nigeria to protect the life of citizens. Life of a person is better than anything we can want on this world. So it's better we move up and then do something really serious than be talking without any action. If the military are having problem of equipment, deploy all the money and resources we have in Nigeria to them for them to protect our people. We cannot be providing luxury things while the people are dying. What need for? We're just wasting our time, Mr. Speaker. So I believe if the president can go around with you people within this country, I don't think you will be sitting down in this chamber or for him to be working in the villa saying that all is well. Nigeria is not well. We are on time bomb, Mr. Speaker. So we encourage every hand which are helpful to help our people. There's no point we'll be hiding under the guise of saying political issue, security issue cannot be discussed. We are all stakeholders. That's why we are here. So, Mr. Speaker, enough is enough. We should go back to the drawing board to know our mistakes and then correct our mistakes. But not for us to be talking and living it just like that by the side of this thing. So, Mr. Speaker, it's high time I'm suggesting that you, after this session, contact your colleague from the Red Chamber. Go and meet Mr. President. Let you invite the service chief. Sit with them one-on-one. Let them tell you the reality on the ground. Because our innocent Nigerians are helpless. Nobody is comfortable now. No any other part of the country. You will be traveling without any trauma of fear. That's no point. So our people are dying while we are talking in the chambers. Our people are dying. Someone traveling to abroad, telling nonsense somewhere outside. That's no point, Mr. Speaker. We have to face reality. Let's call a spade a spade. Lives have lost. There's no option, there's no point.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Shetima, for your passion-laden contribution. Honorable Reverend Francis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would not have forgiven myself if I didn't have the opportunity to make contributions to such a debate. Francis, Right Reverend, Honorable Francis Ejirogene Waives, my name. I represent the entire people of Ugele North, Ugele South, Udu. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Delta State. This security issue is now beyond even geopolitical zones. During the holidays, it was Kogi, another at Zamfara, Northeast every day. I keep thinking of this Northeast. I remember EYN inviting me to Mubi, to Lhasa, and all those places. I wonder if they invite me today, whether I would like to go to honor their invitation because of the situation. Mr. Speaker, the security situation is beyond political party lines. Those people don't discriminate whether you are PDP or APC before they throw the gun at you. It's beyond tribal, ethnic, beyond religion. And every Nigerian should be concerned. Every Nigerian should be concerned. I think about it, what will happen, the way it's deteriorating to my children in the future. God forbid, this is the only country that we have. We cannot change nationality, we will not. This is our nation, we are going to stay here and salvage it together. After all, there have been countries that have gone through guerrilla warfare. They came out of it. What did they do? Mr. Speaker, the time has come for us to set up a body to study what happened in such situations outside the shores of this country, and they were able to overcome. What did they do? Places where there were guerrilla warfare, civil war. What happened? What did those nations implement that eventually brought such things to an end? I believe that the insecurity problems in this country can come to an end. Let us go and study what others have done in places where there have been such crises and how all those type of crises came to an end. There's been this general talk about the security chiefs. Our laws are clear. It's the prerogative of Mr. President. They serve at his pleasure. But Mr. Speaker, there is something called shame. Those security chiefs, just sit down and think about what is happening now in this country. Are you pleased? Are you proud? Will it be that in your time, this country will degenerate to such a level and you proudly refer to yourself as a security chief in this nation? I think some people should resign. Mr. President's style has not been to sack people. He has been nice to everybody. But you who is bearing that position, are you happy with what is happening? Look at lives that are going every day. Why not honorably resign? Mr. Speaker, I would suggest like what happens during wartime in history and across the world. Massive recruitment and training. I think that is what we need at this time. Massive recruitment and training. Let recruitment centers be open for the police, for the army, in Damaturu, in Yola, in Meduguri, all over the country, massive recruitments. Even if some people would be got into the system on a temporary basis, we can overwhelm our enemies. Nigeria can overcome. This country must survive. Let us come together and save it. Let people volunteer. Let government open stations across the country where people can volunteer. We have reached that stage. And let there be massive recruitments, massive training. Don't tell me we can't fund it. What are the security votes for? There is enough security votes at the state level, at the federal level to take care of this. And I believe by God's grace, we shall overcome. And Nigeria will enjoy peace again. And we are not going to run away. And God will save our country for us. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable colleagues, because of the importance of this issue, we will suspend all other matters on the order paper to allow all members who want to contribute so that we can have informed and meaningful resolution at the end of the day. Call on Honorable Ibakwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Honorable Ben Roland Igbakwa. I represent Ethiop East, Ethiop West, and by the grace of God, we are from Delta State. Mr. Speaker, I am from Delta, but I'm a Nigerian. And I see everything, I hear everything that is happening to our people in the Northeast especially. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind you passionately, your inaugural speech, where you told us that Nigerians are watching. And there are times that we'll have to take decisions that will shake the table a little. A lot has been said on this debate. I know, Mr. Speaker, that Mr. President, under Section 218 of our Constitution, has the prerogative to appoint and keep these service chiefs in office. But like my brother rightly said, there's what we call change. And people should know, when you take responsibility, there must be that room for you to take full responsibility and liability. If you're doing something, we cannot continue to do the same thing every time and expect a different result. It's solely people that are considered are not of sound mind that should do the same thing and expect different results. Mr. Speaker, where we are now, the position we are right now, there is need for us to change our system. Mr. President should look at the service chief, because here we are always calling on Mr. Speaker. You are leading us. The head determine a lot of things that happen. The service chiefs are the heads of these agencies. There is what we call the law of diminishing return in economics. Mr. Speaker, these people have lost touch with reality. They sit in their Oval Office. Now they will sponsor television program to tell us what is happening. And the story they are telling us is different from what is happening out there in our communities. There is need for Mr. President to look at them, look at the service chief very well, make a change so that somebody can come with fresh ideas. We have good people, armies trained both within and outside the country that can handle those positions. Let us bring in fresh heads. Let us bring better ideas, because the ideas that they had is long overstretched, and like I said, the law of diminishing return has set in, and they are no longer giving us what we want. This is our country, like somebody rightly said, we have nowhere to go. It is growing gradually. In Delta now, we are looking for army to guide us, because whatever happened here one day, if care is not taken, we spill over to the southern part of the country, we spill to the eastern part of the country, and where are we going to go? We have enough problem on our hand. I think having curtailed it this extent, now that it's moving, Mr. Speaker, there's need to change the head so that Nigerians can go to sleep with their eyes closed, believing that we have enough people, generals, that can change the narrative of our security architecture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Jha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ahmed Jha Hababa is my name, and I represent Chibok, Damboa Goza Federal Constituency. I'm from Borno State. Mr. Speaker, fortunately, still I'm not dead, and I'm being vindicated by the Nigerians and this hollow chamber. The other time I said, without fear of any contradiction, that substantial part of my constituency is still under the occupation of Boko Haram. I equally went further to say that substantial part of northern Borno from my state is still under the occupation of Boko Haram. The following day, some people sponsored some group of charlatans to recognize that I am equally a Boko Haram. I decided not to respond because I know there will be a time where God can vindicate me through either this chamber or through Nigerians. I equally stress that it's not within the outreach or within the job specification of the Nigerian army to look and search for personal identification of an individual through national ID card. I told Nigerians that it has not been provided to everybody. And the requirement of getting national ID card is for you to have indigent letter of any local government, which is very porous. So as far as I'm concerned, it has not been part of their job and it has not been described as part of their responsibility as military officers. Sir, today, as we can see it vividly, whether I was the one that was right and they were wrong and vice versa, only God can judge that and Nigerians can equally judge today. Substantial part of areas occupied by Boko Haram in the Hitotop point is still under the occupation of Boko Haram. I still maintain my position. Another thing, Your Excellency, I'm even surprised. And I will move as an amendment to this motion, calling on the immediate replacement of the service chiefs in Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, when I contested election, I visited all my constituency, and I know the risk I took to follow all these areas. I have sacrificed my life. I am not stupid. I know the consequences of unveiling a masquerade. I may be declared dead tomorrow, but I will be happy to die if my people can live in peace, can go back to their farmlands, schools can be open, people can go to school, so that out of school children can be out of street. Mr. Speaker, we have to tell each other the truth. Nigeria is the country we have, and we have to do everything within our limit as parliamentarians, as legislators, to safeguard the territorial integrity of this country. Just recently, in my constituency, in my local government, in my electoral ward, where I reside, few meters away from Emir's Palace, less than 150 meters away from military barrack, few meters away from Central Park, two suicide bombers attacked a mosque early morning and killed 3 people. Just recently, between Damaturu and Maiduguri is less than 135 kilometers. A young man of 10 years old beheaded a Christian brother from Plateau who was on his way to school in Maiduguri. He went even to the extent of inciting religious crisis by saying, we are doing this to revenge what your parents did to us or did to our parents in the past in Plateau. All these are strategy by Boko Haram insurgents to incite religious crisis in the country. Failure on inability or refusal to release Leah Sharibu is equally a strategy to incite religious crisis. The pastor that was killed in Adamawa is from my constituency, is from Balala, and Balala is a ward in my constituency of Chibok. This guy is a revered pastor, a man of God. They catch this guy in, they caught this guy in Michigan and assassinated him. They allow him to do a video at the very beginning to tell Nigerians to come to his rescue. Either federal government, either UN agency, or INGO, or any of the negotiators to come to his rescue by paying some ransom. Nobody cares to do that. At the end of the period, they assassinated that particular pastor, trying to incite religious crisis. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, and I will repeat it, I am not stupid. I know the consequences of unveiling a masquerade. I know what I am saying. I know tomorrow some people can come for me, but I am calling on the immediate replacement, solely removal of all the service chiefs and their immediate replacement with the competent ones. Because the truth of the matter is known to all Nigerians. They have overstayed, and all courses under them are not stimulated to work, they are not stimulated to perform, they are not stimulated to end this war. Mr. Speaker, this is my position. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Oshoba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Honorable Lumide Oshoba. I represent Abeokuta North, Odeda, and Obafemode local governments. Mr. Speaker, I would like to align myself with various speakers on this motion. It has gotten to a point where we, as Nigerians, need to tell ourselves the truth. We only have one country, and we have people in charge of security in this country. If there is no security, there is no life. It is the mandate of the government to protect its citizens and their property. And those in charge of doing that, if we're having people trying to go to school, being caught and assassinated by teenagers, it's time we have a rethink of our security architecture. So I want to align myself with the previous speakers on changing those in charge of the security architecture in this country. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, last speaker on this row will be Honorable Koko.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I remain Shehu Koko. I'm from Kebbi State. I speak for the good people of Koko, Bese, and Mayema Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the contribution made by my colleagues. I almost shed tears. If I tell you what is happening in my federal constituency now, Mr. Speaker, definitely you may likely send a strong team from this parliament to condole my people. Mr. Speaker, in Kebbi State, we are farmers, 90%, 100% farmers. We are businessmen, Mr. Speaker. On Saturday, to be precise, on Sunday, Mr. Speaker, to be precise, there's a big market called Dadinkoa in Kebbi State, in my federal constituency. That market come under attack by kidnappers, heavily armed. They destabilize the business of the market. They destabilize almost everybody in the market. Mr. Speaker, to come to my people who are the farmers, we can't go to the farm, Mr. Speaker, and farm. We are known in Kebbi as rice farmers. We can't go and farm, Mr. Speaker, and farm because the kidnappers follow our citizens, follows my constituents up to their houses and kidnap them immediately after they left their farmers, Mr. Speaker. Farm, Mr. Speaker. To my own surprise, last 2 weeks, one of my constituents called me that I should help. They can't do anything. They kidnapped one old man, almost 80 years, and they requested for 90 million naira. Mr. Speaker, I asked them, why do I get that money to pay? They said, you are in Abuja. You should come back and help us. You should come back and help us. I said, definitely I'm a representative. And the little I can send, I have to send, I have to confess. I sent money to set that man free, which is very unfortunate to all of us. I want to join my voice, Mr. Speaker, to inform Mr. President through this hollow chamber, it is high time, Mr. Speaker, it's high time to Mr. President to change the service chiefs. If I don't add my voice into this, I'm a hypocrite. And I'm not a hypocrite, I will never be a hypocrite. We don't have peace in this country. People are set off on religious crisis. People are set off in war zones.
We all know what happened or what is happening presently in Northeast. Now it's North Central. Now it's Northwest. We don't have peace. Mr. Speaker, that's my own contribution. I'm joining my voice to tell Mr. President through this hollow chamber to please, it's high time. We should change these people so that we can have a good architecture of security. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Honorable Benila has passionately pleaded to contribute from Plateau State. Honorable Benny.
Only woman speaking today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Benny La. I represent Blanktown North and South Federal Constituency in Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to this very, very important motion that has been debated today. I will say this is not a debate. It is mainly just a contribution for members to air out their frustration, their disappointment, and the lack of progress being made in the fight against Boko Haram. Mr. Speaker, Boko Haram seems to have perfected their act very well. They seem to have a strategy that is working. Because if, as Honorable Bongonu has said, towns are held to, roads are no longer pliable because people cannot pass those roads. All roads leading to Maiduguri as of today have been declared unsafe by the contribution of Honorable Bongonu. You cannot go near anywhere around Maiduguri and expect to come out alive or come out without being kidnapped. Mr. Speaker, if this is happening and the towns in the northeast are becoming ghost towns, and like Honorable Bongonu said, 300 vehicles you'll find moving on a road and they're not even able to move for over an hour unless they're escorted, that means that the northeast is gradually coming to a standstill. We cannot sit in these chambers and pretend that all is well. Mr. Speaker, we need to ask ourselves, what is the strategy of the military? What is the military doing to forestall all of this? How are they portraying that whatever they're doing is effective and that they even know what they're doing? There seems to be a failure of military intelligence. There seems to be absolutely no intelligence gathering. For citizens from Plateau, from Adamawa, from Kaduna, from Katsina, Zamfara, Maiduguri, Northeast, everywhere in the country, Mr. Speaker, Boko Haram seems to be ahead of everybody and all other violence, those who commit acts of violence and crime. Mr. Speaker, we have a role to play and we shouldn't shy away from our responsibility. The House itself needs to form a very, very strong joint committee, if possible, maybe an ad hoc committee, consisting of defense, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army, and of course, the police and the National Intelligence Security, National Security and Intelligence Committee, to tell us what is going on. Intelligence gathering is not happening. There's no strategy. There's no impact. We are just like people in the wilderness. We are fighting a war with kids' gloves. What we need is an explanation. And I think, Mr. Speaker, let us listen to the people of the Northeast. They've been crying for a change in the security architecture of this country. The Parliament has been crying for it. And we have said here today that we should adopt a resolution that the Speaker, the Senate President, meet the President and probably ask for a revisit of the security architecture. And we expect the Speaker to come back with good news that there will be such a revisit of the security architecture, because most of these service chiefs, their term is already up. Most of them are sitting on offices that have expired. Maybe that is why this war is not being fought. Mr. Speaker, please let us very, very passionately look at this matter with all seriousness so that we'll forestall the situation. Students on their way to schools are being killed, Plateau students from all over. You cannot say you're going to school in Maiduguri and come back alive. It's very sad. I think, Mr. Speaker, we should do something as a House, very drastic measures. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
we'll start with the leaders on this row. Honorable Toby.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am pleased to be associated with this motion, which is essentially the lead debate has been done by Honorable Mungono, who is from also Mungono. It is to curb the incessant of attacks of the Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast and also other parts of Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, I want us to be guided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the Constitution in Chapter 2 says clearly, it shall be the duty and responsibility of all organs of government and all authorities and persons exercising legislative, executive, or judicial powers to conform to, observe, and apply the provisions of this chapter of this Constitution. And this chapter of this Constitution, Section 14b says, "Participation of the people in their government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution." Mr. Speaker, I think that from all intents and purposes, we are doing our duty as parliamentarians and as people who have been elected to represent our various constituencies. It is very evident from the body of this motion, and as argued by Mungono, that for over 7 years, Boko Haram has been on rampage. Is it because the barber does not know how to shave, or is it because the razor is not sharp, or is it both? Is it that our military are not fit for purpose? And now Senator in the Red Chamber says that it would amount to berberism when there is a continuous state of the same matter. A continuous state of foolishness means berberism. And we cannot continue in that manner. Something needs to change. It's either we have not diagnosed the problem or we are not doing the needful. Mr. Speaker, for a state, and particularly a town like Maiduguri, to have 4 access points, which includes Maiduguri to Biu, Maiduguri to Baga, and Maiduguri to Gomboru, and as well as Maiduguri to Damaturu. Mr. Speaker, of these 4 access points to the city of Maiduguri, is only Damaturu to Maiduguri that is working. All other ones are blocked. Our people cannot access their communities. As a matter of fact, if you have to move from Maiduguri to Gomboru, you wait for a convoy of about 500 vehicles. Security situation. So I appreciate the fact that we have suspended all other matters on the other paper for us to deal with this. And if you can see the way and manner people have come up to sponsor this motion, you find out that it is spread all over this country. Mr. Speaker, I cannot begin to mention the number of people that have been actually been killed in Chukum, in Kaduna State. Not the number that have been killed in Kauru, in Kaduna State. About a week ago, we had about 15 killed in Jos. And the people from those constituencies have eloquently stated the issues. In my own constituency, I've had Reverend Fathers killed. So, and even in your speech, you said whether it's on Motokun or whether it is any or forest guard or whatever, something wrong is happening. And whatever we devise or whatever way we want to address it, what we want is that government, as per chapter 2, section 14 of the Constitution, should be responsive to the needs of our people, whichever device we want to do. So we need to interrogate how we conduct the business of security. I was listening to the Senate President yesterday, the day before yesterday, and he said the security architecture of the country has collapsed, that the needful needs to be done. The security and welfare of our citizens has no color, it has no party. And the content and character of our representation depends on how we respond to this. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I want us to address a number of issues. What is the correlation between budgetary appropriation and to what extent our soldiers are equipped? Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that at the last time in the 8th Assembly, there was about $1 billion that was made available for equipping the military. I do not know to what extent that's been put to use and to what extent we have harvested the benefit of such investment. Mr. Speaker, the chairman defense here said that the tanks that we manufactured, that was invented by a Nigerian Ezugu, the Ezugu tanks, that they were only able to produce only 6. Mr. Speaker, I know that Simon, who is a colleague, said that in his constituency, in his local government, that about 30 military officers are there, but they are not equipped with any patrol vehicle, including any Ezugu tank. Mr. Speaker, what would they be doing there without this? And now we begin to draw a correlation between our investment and our scale of preference and our priority. Mr. Speaker, should our priority be the security and safety of Nigerians? Compare it with making trader money and all these social investment programs priority. Nigerians need to be safe. If they are safe and secure, they can they have the responsibility of dealing with the rest. So I think government needs to be on its feet, including ourselves and the executive. We need to be on the same page and interrogate the issues without any kind of passion or emotion. We need to be objective and deal with it. Where should we be investing? How can the chairman of defense here come and tell us that there is not money to do an Ezugu tank? And we are doing trader money. We cannot be doing that, Mr. Speaker. More importantly, Mr. Speaker, I also want us to address certain things. You mentioned, we know that we closed our borders. The borders in the Northeast, are they also closed? In other parts of the country, are they closed? So if we've closed our borders, how come that these people have the capacity to still do hit and run? How come that it is possible for an inchoate set of young people can hold a Nigerian republic of 200 million people to ransom? What is our value system that encourages this? How can we come and say that Medugri, that was available to the Kanan Borno Empire, that is a classical commercial city, is now available and encircled to the point that our people cannot have access? Historically, and in our operations, Mr. Speaker, we have never come to this level of perdition. So I think we need to do the needful. And I also believe that we as a people should, for instance, say that we have been elected to oversight responsiveness to our constitution. Some people have said we replace the army chiefs with the need to be sacked and all that. Mr. Speaker, I don't think that I want to associate with those adjectives. The executive and the commander-in-chief should deal with the army chiefs with regard to the operation of law. The law says that they have a tenure, Mr. Speaker. If they have a tenure and their tenure has expired, he should operate the law. They are not to be sacked. They are not to be replaced. Operate the law. It's as simple as that. We should not observe the law in breach. If their tenure is due, please, let their continuous tenure be a disincentive to the spirit of camaraderie in the army. Sometimes somebody mentioned that it's become a business concern. I don't want to say that. But if that is the case, let it not be a disincentive to motivation, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think that we have severally interfaced with you. Have really been proactive severally because we interacted with the army chiefs. He said, why should the speaker be? It is a matter of concern. We appreciate that. Now it has become auspicious that this house should interface with the commander-in-chief. It is very, very important that this house interacts with the commander-in-chief. If not the entire house, the leadership should do that. And it should be part of the resolution that we should pass here. Let us tell him, convey the feelings of members of this parliament that Nigerians are hurt. So I do not think that even if we continue discussing this till tomorrow, until we are safe in this country, we will not stop discussing security. We need to do the needful. We cannot be in a continuous state of berberism. Please, it's not necessary. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I appreciate our colleagues as led by the whip of the House, the majority whip, that we should move this motion. He is from Mungono and he is also called Mungono. He can't go to his house. Nandas from Nandas have had people beheaded in constituency. Even the National Security Advisor is also hurting. We need to do the needful. And it is very, very clear that, look, whatever you want to call it, let us say that we want to save Medugri, Yobe, and other districts, and making sure that whatever we have in other places like the social investment, let us appropriate funds and make sure we deal with it. Then we will also have to say the architecture of security in this country will need to be addressed. We need to deal with it. You can't run away. What has happened, Mr. Speaker, is the absence of law. Forest guard or motocycle vigilante is the absence of law, and reality is coming up to meet up with law. Reality is meeting up with law. So the reality is calling on you to respond to it by making an enabling framework legally to respond to our challenges. So I want to call on our colleagues to support this motion, and I'll be submitting some amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader, for your very robust contribution and the salient points that you made. Even though I noticed that you couldn't resist perhaps the natural urge to throw in some politics and draw a nexus. I don't know how you are able to do that between trader money and security. You refer to section 14 of the Constitution, and you quoted that section, which I agree, but it's a two-part section. Talks about primary purpose of government being security and welfare of the people. So it's a two-part responsibility. Your proposal is that because we have a problem with one part, which is security, we should jettison the other part, which is welfare. And I believe trader money speaks to the welfare of the people. But nonetheless, very good, very robust contribution. Thank you very much. Honorable Gagdi, Honorable Maki.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I'm Abubakar Maki Eleman. I represent Malamadori, Kaugama Federal Constituency. My speaker, my own is two. That is one plea to my honorable colleagues, and the other one amendment. My plea to my honorable colleagues, almost all the contributions made by each and every member here were centered in one thing: this issue of security, particularly in the Northeast. Most of my colleagues stood up and said the service chief has to go. The issue is financially, as my leader made mention that the federal government, they are trying their best based on the constitution imposed on them, that section 14(2)(a) of the Federal Republic Constitution. Mr. Speaker, 2B, yes. Mr. Speaker, the issue is we need to put our head together and encourage these service chiefs and those military in the field. They are human beings like us. They need moral encouragement, not only financial. Financially, the federal government are trying their best. I must use this opportunity and commend the executive governor of Borno State for him standing firm on the security matter. Each and every one of us is saying it on social media. We commend him for that. Even our honorable members who came from the Borno, Yobe, and the Northeast, for them standing firm on their constituents, always speaking on this matter. I respect you, I commend you for that. Mr. Speaker, my amendment here, the purpose of each committee is to come up with a resolution on each committee. This motion is very, very important, in which we even waive out, we suspend all other matters today and say let us digest and discuss on this issue of security. My amendment here, sir, is to mandate the Committee on Defense and related committees to invite the Minister of Defense and all relevant stakeholders to come together and discuss this issue. Issue of security is not an issue that can be talked openly. There are certain things that are supposed to be hidden, discussed not for public domain, so that those committees, they can come up with the result, with the outcome of the discussion, with the Minister of Defense and the relevant stakeholders to feed the executives, that's the leadership of this honorable chamber, so that we can find our way out on this security matter. It's not always we come to this green chamber and start talking security issues and we are not find a concrete solution and way out to how we can solve this security issue. It's not issue asking the security service to go or asking this or passing blame from one place to another. Let us call these people, sit down with them, discuss. There are certain things, I repeat, that's not supposed to be on air as far as security concerned. Because these people, they are all watching us as well how they are sending their media to us. They are videoing, sending all their information to us. We are seeing. Likewise, they are also seeing us. We need to be very, very serious. I respect this honorable chamber and I thank each and every contributor here. So I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Maki. I think when we come to amendments, we'll take yours as well. Honorable Kumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, this motion is not only timely, but it's very, very important to our existence as a sovereign nation. Whereas we are talking about security, a lot have been said, and I'm in agreement with substantial number of contributions made by our colleagues. But I have these two or three observations to make. One, Mr. Speaker, I did not subscribe to the approach by our military in the theater. This open-ended war approach. The sector commandants and the theater commandants must be given a delimited period of time within which to report back success and success, progress, and problems. But in the manner within which our military people are approaching this war, it's like there is no time frame within which they can end the war. Two, there is no encouragement, there is no motivation, and there is no punishment for those who failed to carry their responsibilities. This discourages a lot of men in the field from performing their job. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, I will equally advise that we holistically look at our information gathering system. Our intelligence gathering in this country still need to be improved. I agree totally that it is not the best time to sit down and discuss our strategy. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, our NIA, our DSS, our CID, and other relevant, including the locals who presuppose to give information about the movement of these criminals. I believe our local government, our state governments, wards, and everybody need to come on board as a true nationalist to help in giving credible information as to how to fight these people. Mr. Speaker, I will give you an example. Just yesterday, Mr. Speaker, 7 people were killed in Plateau. I was privileged with the privilege you gave me to chair the Committee on Police. 2 troops of mobile men have to be deployed to Jos, to Plateau State yesterday, to complement the existing police force in Plateau. While we are trying to send these 2 troops, we equally have a request from Kaduna that they still need an enforcement. The Nigerian police have only 13 helicopters. Only 6 are functioning. Even if you say you deploy only each one to a political zone, to a political zone, whereas you have a problem, they are adequately, I think, not enough to fight these insurgents. And most importantly, our men and the country need to know that we are grateful to God Almighty for His intervention. If for any reason there will be a security outbreak simultaneously across our states, the miscreants have the capacity, as it is evident, to outrun our security agencies. We are not praying, and we are equally grateful to Almighty God, but Mr. Speaker, I want to suggest that the president need to do something radical. Whatever we are going to do here, we are going to be guided by our laws. Our limitations are, we are parliament, we speak for the downtrodden, we speak for the Nigerians. But when it comes to implementation, the laws of the land allow other segments of the country, like the executive, to implement. I am truly sure that as a house, as a parliament, we are doing our best. We are discussing these issues. We have Nigerians at heart. But we equally have to call on the executive to please live up to their billings and do the needful. Whatever it takes, what is most important is the incessant killings of innocent Nigerians have to be resisted, rejected, and objected by all of us. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable, as chairman of police, let me just ask quickly, are you aware of the police package in terms of the emoluments and entitlements? Do you have that document in your office, what their package is, what they're entitled to?
Mr. Speaker, Nigerian police, with the exception of the coming of Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua as a president, Umar Musa Yar'Adua as a president, who raised the benchmark from 8,000 to 40,000. So the minimum of a Nigerian police officer is 40,000.
Okay, so men and women who are on the front lines, risking their lives every day, are on the minimum wage, more or less. I think these are part of the problems that we may not realize. We've all been in several places all over the world where even men looking at a policeman, the way he's geared up is intimidating enough. So some of these things are psychological, and I think as the committee should take a look at the package of policemen and how we can also have massive recruitment right from the local government itself, massive recruitment and enhancement of their welfare, so that it will be a pride to join the police. They will be able to serve with their heart, and that it will be enough. I mean, some of these things are psychological to address some of these issues. If your committee can embark on that mission or on that task, it will be very important. It will go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Sejus Ose Ogun. I represent Esan Northeast, Esan Southeast, and I'm from Edo State. Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that you're looking into more funding for the police force. I have always advocated for increasing their funding and also the need to introduce technology. We have said so much here about the security of the entire nation, not just even the Northeast. I know if we have drones and we have a command and control center, it can reduce some of these things. We know we don't have enough policemen. I've heard in the past 10 years that we have 350,000 policemen or 300,000 policemen. That's grossly inadequate for a country like Nigeria. But if we introduce some technology into this and we train the policemen and maybe motivate them, maybe they can do more. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, I strongly in agreement with those that have suggested here that we should invite the service chiefs here. They have been briefing the president. They should also come and brief us. When the president came in 2015, he said that the relevant service chiefs should relocate to the theater of war. I'm not sure they are there anymore. I'm not sure they ever went there. I'm not sure they ever relocated there. If you are doing, I am told that insanity is if you are doing same thing, same way, and you are expecting same result, there's something wrong somewhere. And I think that's what's happening here. Now, we have been listed among, we are number 3 among the terrorist nations of the world. Afghanistan, Yemen, Nigeria. Those 2 states are failed states, Afghanistan and Yemen.
Maybe they have not had the courage to tell us that we are a failed state. Mr. Speaker, I don't think you will be proud to go anywhere in the world and they will say you are the Speaker of the Congress of a failed state. So, bottom line here, I know most of my colleagues have said so much here. I want to agree that we should invite the service chiefs here, let them come and brief this parliament. Then, because in the last assembly, the Senate had security summit twice. They are proposing another one. And the situation is even getting worse. So I'll suggest that we get the service chiefs to come here and not the head of the security agents, brief this Congress, and then we will make a decision. And I believe you can speak on behalf of this House so that Nigerians will know where we stand. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Sada.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Sada Soli Jubia, representing Jubia Kaita Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my concern is what really went wrong. This crisis is localized in Borno State, and in Borno State within one geographical enclave, but with the gallantry of our military, of our armed forces, this crisis is still lingering, is becoming out of hand. Mr. Speaker, I'm asking this question, and every sensible Nigerian should ask this question: what really went wrong? My concern is, I hope it is not true from what we're hearing, that within the armed forces, there is some friction. I hope what we're hearing out there is not true. And if it is true, it is a significant factor that would hinder stable Northeast or stable Borno State. Mr. Speaker, did we look at the religious and political approach in addressing these security problems? Why military? Or is it why because there's more money there? I think there is need for us to look at the political and the religious approach in addressing some of these crises. Mr. Speaker, let me admonish those that are around the president or those that are advising the president on the security issues. They should tell the president the truth. The president is an honest and system person. He is a system person. He's an honest person. If he gives you a job, you tell him what is about the job. He takes it hook, line, and sinker because he trusts you. What I admonish them, they should tell Mr. President the truth, what is really wrong. The president, I believe, will take decisive action for that because he loves this country. I believe somewhere, somehow, in the corridors of power, the president is not being told the truth of the situation in Northeast. Why Northeast? Why this Boko Haram? Why Northeast? To get to Maiduguri, there's only one road to get there.
Sorry, Honorable Sada, the motion was based on what was happening in the Northeast, but the debate has been expanded. It's now become a national issue, and Plateau has come in, Adama, so many other states have come in. So yes, I want us to debate it as a national issue, yes.
I'm happy you brought in my contribution. Mr. Speaker, look at the security challenges that we have in all sections of this country. In my state, these security challenges, Mr. Speaker, some of them are localized, are extremely localized to a village point. To a village point where a division of police can address these problems. But what is the problems? Mr. Speaker, Today, as I'm speaking now, some of the constable police are in the police college. I received calls from some of the kids that are going to graduate, asking me money to buy uniform to graduate. Now this is where the problem starts. Recruits getting out of the police college, asking money, they are being compelled to buy uniforms. That's the starting point of their service to the country. Mr. Speaker, Northeast, let me cite an example. They closed the borders. There's what they call joint border drill. The police, the military, the customs, the immigration, the NDLA were on the border town. I can tell without fear of contradiction, they have been compromised. Nothing reduces. In fact, they enjoy it. They enjoy the borders closed, and they are coming here telling the president everything is okay. Recently, they caught some of the custom officers. They are now being court-martialed. Allowed about 15 to 15 tankers of petrol to get out of this country. Mr. Speaker, where are these weapons coming in? They have closed the borders. They have closed the borders. They are telling the president, this innocent man, they are telling him the borders are closed and we're achieving this. Every day they will catch these people with their motorbikes, and when they lift their seats, they will find AK-47. From where are these weapons coming? Where are these gun runners? I'm challenging our security agencies to catch these gun runners in this country. Where are they? What is happening? I believe if they can summon the courage and tell Mr. President the truth, that Mr. President, A and B and C and D, this is the way it is, I strongly believe Mr. President will take a decisive action. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name remains Honorable Ndudi Godwin Elumelu, and I represent the good people of Anocho Oshimiri Federal Constituency. I'm from Delta State. Let me commend the Chief Whip for bringing this motion. It's a great motion. It's a motion that affects every aspect, every zone in this country. Mr. Speaker, on a lighter mood, somebody from Adelabu, armed robbers visited them. Adelabu, Sule. And he called the helpline. So when he called the helpline, the receiver asked him 3 questions. He said, if the armed robbers are carrying cutlass, press 1. If they are carrying AK-47, press 2. If they are carrying AK-47 bomb, atomic missile, press 3. And he pressed 3. The police officer picked the phone and said, you are a very wicked man. So you want me to go and face atomic missile?
Honorable Elumelu. You are a man of God. Continue.
Mr. Speaker, I'm saying this because of the statement that the House Committee Chairman of Police Affairs said about insufficient equipment. There is no way you can ask a police officer to go and rescue you when he knows that he's carrying pump action that has about 7 bullets, whereas the armed robber or the kidnapper or those people who are terrorizing our people are with AK-47. It is not possible. Now, if you now extend it to what is happening today in the country, Mr. Speaker, we are, when you see you have a sore on the surface, and you are telling somebody you have headache, instead of you to tell the doctor the reason why you have that sore, you have headache, that is because of the injury, that is why you have headache. Mr. Speaker, a lot is going on. If we don't have true commission, where our people will come and speak the truth, about the experiences with even all these security officers, we can't solve problem. You know why? One, for as long as they are making money with the name fighting insurgency, we can never overcome insurgency. There must be a way to make it less attractive. The moment that is brought to bear, then obviously we will begin to solve the problem gradually. Because what you are seeing happening in all these areas is racketeering. They are making money out of Nigeria. And for as long as, just like somebody who works in PSCN or all these power generating companies, and he sells generator, and you're asking him to give us enough megawatt, it's not possible. Because for as long as there is stable electricity, he can never sell generator. That is what is happening in Nigeria. Coming back to, do they have the capacity to fight this thing? Do they have the moral ground, enough motivation? Mr. Speaker, every member here looks up to you to see how you react, how you behave in their conduct. We said we were going for 1 hour, 15 minutes break. Some of us didn't come back immediately after 15 minutes, but you were here. So it means that you are showing example. The service chiefs we have are not showing good example. And it's hard time we stop painting it. They have outlived their usefulness. And I think if there's anybody who loves this nation, the best thing for them is to take a bow and go. Theresa May failed to leave UK people, England, United Kingdom people out of Brexit. What happened? She voluntarily left. Cameroon did the same thing. But we do not have such moral character in Africa to know when we can leave. So if you don't know when to leave, the best thing is to gently order them to leave. Because if you talk to the officers, they will tell you that their problem is their overall bosses. That is enough problem itself. Then you talk about capacity in terms of having equipments. Mr. Speaker, we are painting this thing left. Somebody was talking to me behind. He said, when Boko Haram faces the military from Chad, they are afraid, even Cameroon, because they have what it takes to take care of them. But when they see Nigerian army, and if you check the social media, look at the video, Mr. Speaker, and see how they treat our soldiers. They will tell them to lie down. They will start with flogging. After flogging, then they will begin to chop them with knife. These are our soldiers. Why? It's because they get them because they have more sophisticated weapons than us. And we have what it takes to address it. It has been provided in the Constitution, section 83 is very clear. That where there is need for us to address this section, we will go under contingency. And declare state of emergency in security. We need that. You can't use by way of appropriation to resolve some of these things. We can't. We need to address it. We need to tell ourselves the truth. Yesterday, I was called. About 7 people were kidnapped, were taken away from their farm by unknown persons. Up to today, they have not been found. You wake up one morning, they will tell you one king has been taken. You go to your farm. Our people can't even go to their very farms because of this insecurity. So except we decide to be straight, to be open-minded, and open our hearts to the truth, the more you call these people to come and they will tell you the same story. And nothing will ever be resolved. They will tell you the same story. There is need for our members, our committees, saddled with the responsibility of oversighting these people, to actually go beyond just oversighting. They should look at their books. Mr. Speaker, you will find that often and not they accuse us of one thing or the other. If you are paying honorable member 2 million, the whole world will hear. Mr. Speaker, let them open their books. You will see a lot of atrocities that have been committed. And it's high time we stop hiding it. We should let the people know what is happening. We should let the people know that the reason why they are suffering is because some people are growing big out of this problem that we have. That is the solution. Otherwise, one day we'll find that we may not, just like somebody was saying that, how will we feel if we go somewhere and we are told, oh, you say you are from this, and of course, the person will be looking at you, you'll be expecting them to accord you respect as a congressman, but they will be looking at you because to them in their heart, you are coming from where that is, in quote, presumed to be failed. And God forbid that they will be seen in that light. But I think that we should change things and change the narratives and depart from the way we used to, by painting it, we see black and we call it white. The truth of the matter is that, without being repetitive, people are stealing money, people are siphoning money, they are not doing what is supposed to be done. And even in the issue of procurement, even the little that they have, there is still issue of diversion. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Chief Whip again and pray this House, as you have made it a whole day affair, that at the end of the day, what we'll come out with should be something that must be truthful and should be something that is realizable and should be something that is reliable for our people, so that at the end of the day, we'll have the desired peace for everybody to be able to sleep in their various homes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leader. We'll round up with this rule. Honorable Yemi Ali.
Mr. Speaker, my name is Ali Yemi. I represent good people of Moshimuwa Federal Constituency in Lagos. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the motion that call on the service chief, that this House should call all the service chiefs to appear before this House and explain why they could not match this banditry that we have in the northern part of the country. It's highly condemned. Mr. Speaker, it is time for us to stand as one Nigeria to speak against this issue of Boko Haram in the northeast. Mr. Speaker, I'm in support of the call on all the service chiefs to come before here and explain why they cannot act as expected. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Anofio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Onofio Luke is my name. I represent Etinang, Nseribo Msurubio Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, first I want to thank God that has granted us safety and has brought us safely into the year 2020 to continue in the task and business of speaking for Nigerians and bringing the issues that bother Nigerians to front burner and then seek solutions to them. Mr. Speaker, a while ago, you gave your welcome address and speech as we resume legislative responsibilities and duties for the year 2020. And in Parliament elsewhere, they should have been here, we should have subjected your speech to debate. But as God would have it, the issues that you raised in your welcome speech are the issues that have taken us in the matters of urgent public importance that we have adumbrated on right from the beginning of the sitting up till now. And in that speech, Mr. Speaker, of conspicuous mention was the issue of security challenge in this country. You captured the issues that has been raised in the motion that has been brought before us by the Chief Whip as the lead sponsor of that motion and with others, and I share in the sentiment as expressed by the Chief Whip as the lead sponsor and other sponsors of that motion that we are deliberating on, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, your speech, and honorable colleagues, your speech shows the fact that you feel the pulse of Nigeria. You are pro-people and you are pro-Nigerian, and that is why the issues you've captured in that welcome speech are the issues that are begging for questions that are begging for answers by Nigerians, and they are expecting us in public office, in this particular instance, those of us elected in these hallowed chambers, to be able to profess solutions to them, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we condemn in totality the issues of security infractions that we have had in this country while we were on the Christmas break and recess. We condemn the beheading and the gruesome murder of the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Adamawa State Chapter. We condemn the killing of that student from Plateau State. And we condemn the incessant attacks on the people of Northeast, whether in Borno or Yobe, or the people of North Central, whether in Plateau or in Kebbi, is totally condemnable. And my people had asked me to do that. Mr. Speaker, on the 11th day of December, I went home. I had a town hall meeting where I called my constituents and asked them, what do you think should define my engagement going further? And of primary concern was the issue of security in this country. And I want to express here the few issues, the few opinions and suggestions and the ideas that they gave. Mr. Speaker, number one, the mode of communication of security issues in this country is not what ought to be. Sadly, Mr. Speaker, last week, we heard that the Mr. President has ordered that there should be an immediate action, and stating specifically how those actions, from the news that we heard, how those actions ought to be carried out. How do you announce to the people that you want to go and bomb, or the insurgents that you want to go and attack, that you are coming on so and so dates to come and attack them? And that is arming them with information to be able to escape from those venues. So we need our security agencies to be able to re-strategize their communication approach, not letting the things that they need to do to come out in the public before they do it. And again, I know that there has been demand by Nigerians on the security agencies to show working, to actually prove that they have been up to point to address this security. Because of that, they keep giving us information that they ought not to give to us publicly, and it's an information that should be spread along, or should be information that should be shared, knowledge that should be shared amongst the security agencies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other one is the issue of patriotism and sincerity. Mr. Speaker, on the floor of this House, you set up an ad hoc committee to address the issue of soldiers who are absconded with money meant for operations. It's totally something that is unheard of. But Mr. Speaker, I know that our chairman, the able chairman of that ad hoc committee, will present the report. And in that report, Mr. Speaker, I am not authorized to speak. But as a member of that committee, Mr. Speaker, if you get to know what happened within the armed forces, why a certain sum, huge sum of money, running into millions, tens of millions, that was meant for operations in a particular state, in a particular area, to curb insurgency, ended up in the pocket of same persons who were supposed to be in the forefront of fighting insurgency. That is the challenge that we have. We are asking that the money meant for operations should be judiciously used by our people and our personnel to be able to address the issues that we have. While we are asking for more funding, there should be a justification of the one that we have already appropriated for those personnel, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's a big question. And today, Mr. Speaker, in the last 6 months, I want to say that I am proud to be a member of these hallowed chambers. Mr. Speaker, today, we left behind the toga of party. We left behind ethnic toga. We left behind religious toga. And we rose together to call a spade a spade. Mr. Speaker, we want you to communicate with Mr. President that we have risen in unison in this House in the last 6 months to give support to the agenda of Mr. President that will deliver dividends of democracy to Nigerians. If we are rising today as a House to complain about the security chiefs, Mr. President should understand that it is that same position that we came to support him in achieving the other issues that he brought before us that will deliver dividends for Nigerians. It is that same us that we are asking Mr. President to look carefully at the composition of National Security Council, to look carefully at the appointment of the service chiefs. But we cannot shave, like the law says. The law says, audi uttering pattern. You must shave from both sides. We cannot shave the heads of the service chiefs in their absence. Mr. Speaker, it is pertinent at this point, having called the service chiefs to speak to you and members of leadership, it is pertinent for the service chiefs to come before these hallowed chambers and address Nigerians through us on the strategy or on the challenges that they have and how collectively we can join our hands together to be able to curb this insurgency. Mr. Speaker, the big question begging is, after how many years, if a combination of the Nigerian armed forces cannot resolve an internal issue with their strength, Mr. Speaker, God forbid that we have an external aggression. God forbid that we have external aggression. Because what we are seeing today is speaking to the fact that if we have external aggression, we don't have a capable armed forces to be able to withstand an external aggression if we cannot resolve the issue of insurgency. So this calls for patriotism, it calls for sincerity of purpose, it calls for change of tactics, it calls for change of command. And before we do that, we need to hear from the service chiefs their challenges. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity you've given to my federal constituency to lend their voice in support of the motion that has been brought seeking to move for the security of lives and property of Nigerians. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Neofok. If we cannot quell internal attacks, how do we quell, God forbid, external attacks? Very good point. Honorable Mansour. Who's calling Mr. Speaker? We are past that stage. At what time?
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues. My name is Mansour Manusoro, a member representing Darazug in the Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Bauchi State. Mr. Speaker, so much has been said about the topic under discussion. In ending my comment, Mr. Speaker, permit me to make mention of what a social theorist in the person of Max Weber has said, that the successful claim to the absolute monopoly of the use of legitimate force in a given territory is the key feature and the most distinguishing characteristics of any given government. Mr. Speaker, right before our very eyes, the Nigerian nation is losing this monopoly to the non-state actors. It is imperative to say that all the gains that the Buhari administration has recorded as far as the insurgency is concerned has been eroded. So we need to go back to the drawing board and see where things went wrong. Nigerians have spoken that the people coordinating the government approach, that the people prosecuting this war has failed. So the president needs to listen to the voice of reason. He needs to take the radical approach. Mr. Speaker, lessons not learned are bound to be repeated. I'm a bona fide member of the FEC, and I feel it is important to remind our party and the ruling government that the insecurity in this country was what consumed the Jonathan government. We need to treat with caution. We need to treat with caution. There is a general consensus out there that the approach used by the then Jonathan government to engage the mercenaries from, Belarus, was working very well. The war was being won by the Nigerian government.
So we need to revisit that agreement to see if we can still bring in the mercenaries to do the work for us. So this is my submission, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Roseman. We'll take you as the last contributor after him.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this very opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I am Honorable Smazana, representing the people of Kaga, Gubio, Magumeri Federal Constituency. I'm from Borno State. Mr. Speaker, if you recall, about 3 or 4 months ago, when the security situation deteriorated in Borno State, we ran to you. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit emotional. And at that time, you call all of us, the Borno representative, to meet with all the service chiefs. When they say representative, you declined and rejected to see them until the next day. So, when we came, we talked about equipment, we talked about synergy, we talked about other things, other logistics that the military required to fight this insurgency. Actually, Mr. Speaker, the thing has now deteriorated to the extent that, as my other colleagues from the area said, our constituency are abusing us that we are not doing anything regarding the security situations in the state, particularly the Maiduguri-Damaturu highway. If you look Damaturu, you have to pass through my constituency, Kaga, before passing to Maiduguri. And that is where the Boko Haram are adopting people. That is where the Boko Haram are killing people. We told severally to the military. And that intelligence synergy is not there. Let me tell you to the fact that it's not there. Because the state security service is providing all the necessary intelligence report to the military. But the military are not using it. And that synergy that we discussed at that meeting is not there. Because if there is an attack now in a particular place, in a particular location, then the military will be informed. The Air Force will be informed. The military, when you inform the Air Force, the Air Force will not take any action because the military did not inform them. When they inform them, maybe it's late. So, Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, I think we have to do something regarding the Maiduguri-Damaturu highway. We have to commend the governor. Very recently, he has set up the Rapid Response Squad team comprising of the police, the SARS team, and other paramilitary organizations to man the Maiduguri-Damaturu highway, and they have succeeded. Mr. Speaker, how can we be using we have to change the tactics, because the military cannot just sit down, trench a hole, and sit down and waiting for the Boko Haram. We are tired of this repel. Actually, the military, we have to commend them in some instances. Just the day before yesterday, about 2 days ago, the Boko Haram attacked Damasak in northern Borno, and many of them were killed, and it was repelled. But for how long can we be hearing this word repel? So they have to have a change of tactics. Because this trenching of trench, according to my religion, I think it was 1,400 years. This trench of trench was used by our prophet. So how can you be using the same? We have to go to technology. We have to use the drones. We have to use several other means to combat this insurgency. If not, I think we have. So, Mr. Speaker, when the Chadian troop withdrew under the multinational joint task force recently, most of our people panicked. Why did they panic? Because if you see a Chadian troop, if you see their vehicle, you can find 20 RPG in one pickup man. But go to our military, to be fact, and found out how many RPGs do we have in a military base? Maybe 2 or 3. How can you fight a Boko Haram with 2 or 3 RPGs in a military formation, with only outdated and old AK-47. You cannot fight them. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the military have to change the tactics. They have to change the tactics, and Mr. President has to be told. The Mr. President has done for us since the National Security Advisor is from Borno, is from the same Mongono with the chief whip. So he has done it for us. So they have to wake up from their slumber to defeat this insurgency. I raise my case, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Ibrahim Muhammad Bukar, representing the good people of Dikwa.
Honorable colleagues, today is Honorable Bukar's birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I rise to support this important motion raised by my brother, colleague, the Chief Whip of the House. I will specifically speak on Maiduguri-Damaturu Highway, about the recent killings of commuters and recent attacks meted out to our villagers around Maiduguri-Damaturu Highway, to be specific, like Jakana, Auno, Mainok, and Benishek. Actually, we will also have to commend the effort of the military for what they have done so far and what they have been doing. Much more needs to be done, or much more is expected for them. We don't need temporary security. What we need is permanent security. What they are giving us now is temporary security. Because recently, I was being told that if you are going from Damaturu to Maiduguri, you will see helicopter flying above. That is escorting commuters, giving you a sense of temporary security. But before, it's not like that. And actually, what I mean by also temporary security is if you go to Jakana village, or if you go to Auno village, you will find military formation there, military base. Actually, this military base is giving temporary security to our villagers. Because once you remove this village, this security post, this temporary base, the whole villagers will relocate back to Maiduguri. So what we expect from the military is for them to roll out a plan of ending these security issues, ending this crisis. So I will call on all my members here to join hands and support this motion in totality. Join the prayers of this motion in totality, so that relative peace will come back to northeastern Nigeria and Nigeria in general. And I will also ask my fellow colleagues to please join in its prayers. Help us with your prayers, because we need divine intervention in this crisis, not only military intervention. I so submit. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Buka. And on that spiritual note, we will take amendments. I have several amendments here with me, several. And many of them are duplicated. So I'll just go through them as they appear, the sequence they appear in my hands. And if your amendment has already been moved, please don't bother, moving once I call your name. Honorable Toby, what's your amendment, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My amendment is that the House mandates the leadership of the House to interface with Mr. President to find a lasting solution to terrorism and banditry in Nigeria, and report back to the House within 2 weeks.
Any seconder? Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Gideon Gwani. I represent Kaura Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the minority leader. As so, second.
Minority Leader. Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Is Honorable Shetima here? Yes.
No. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Lawan Shetima Ali, representing Bursari, Gaidam Yunusari Federal Constituency. My amendment is this, Mr. Speaker. I suggest to have a tripartite meeting of the National Assembly leadership, that's both the the reps and the Senate, as well as Mr. President with the service chiefs, in order to find a lasting solution to the security situation in this nation. I so move, sir.
Okay. Now, your amendment is similar to Honorable Toby's amendment, but it goes further. Honorable Raji. Yes, Honorable Shetima's amendment is similar to that of Honorable Toby's amendment, but it goes further to say it should be a tripartite meeting between the leadership of the House, Mr. President, and the service chiefs. So in that amendment, you're either going to have to ask, I think, that we incorporate. So I think automatically, if this amendment passes, it will subsume. It will, because now it's incorporated. Well, okay, if you prefer the word incorporate, because you're asking that the service chief should join us. That's what you're saying. All right. So any seconder. Honorable Victor. No, Honorable. So it's better Honorable Toby too, but go ahead, since they have similar amendments. Honorable Adejare. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I still remain Honorable Dr. Samuel Babatunde Adejare, and I represent the people of Agege. I stand to second the motion as moved by Honorable Shetima. Thank you.
Thank you. Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Reverend, are you here? Reverend Wave, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Francis Ejirogane, whatever is the name. I represent the entire people of Ugele North, Ugele South, and Udu. I'm from Delta State. My amendments in threefold. The first, that this House mandate the federal government to massively employ and train new personnel for the police force and other security agencies. That's number one. Number two, that the House Committee on Defense and the Ministry of Defense undertake a study tour of countries that have overcome such security challenges and report back to the House. Mr. Speaker, number three, that this House adopt a motion as part of the amendment that we rather call on the security chiefs to honorably resign. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I want our amendments to have meaning and to be enforceable. in Nigeria, people don't resign willingly. They don't resign willingly. But we'll take your 3 amendments. The first one, to embark on, the federal government to embark on massive recruitment and training. Secondary to the first amendment, Honorable Namdas.
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Abdrazak Namdas. I represent the people of Ganye, Jada Tongo, Maui from Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, I second the amendment that massive recruitment into the police and other securities should be embarked upon. I so second it.
Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. The second amendment is that the Ministry of Defense, in collaboration with the Benson Yeleman Committee, embark on a tour to study other countries that have overcome, experienced and overcome the same situation we are in Nigeria today. Any seconder? Seconder. Honorable Olarewaju. Okay, what's your point about that?
Mr. Speaker, Onofio Luke, 18 and Salibum Srubium Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, we are intelligent people and we have had access to technology. The committee can sit.
So your order will be based on what? Personal explanation, privilege? What is the order?
Sir, privilege, sir. Privilege. So that others will not feel that members of the Parliament of Nigeria don't have access to technology, of which I am a member. So the Benson Markey Committee can make use of technology, whether in the iPad to study what is happening in other countries. But if they negotiate very well, Mr. Speaker, then they can go on that study with their.
So there's an amendment on the floor, which I am taking it that you are opposing or you are not seconding. Any seconder to that amendment? That is the amendment that the Benson Yelema Committee should go on a study tour. Any second? Honorable Toby, you want to second?
The motion has moved. The amendment has moved is incomplete because our constitution and our rules provides that when you create a scope of work, you must create an avenue for funding. He has to tell us how the funding will come for the tour so that we can take a very comprehensive decision.
Well, because it's an amendment, I don't want to open the door for debate of an amendment. There are ways to deal with amendments. They either pass or fail on their merits. I don't think we should debate it, but you make a very good point. Maybe Honorable Benson wants to second. That was a teaser, Honorable. So you cannot second that, Honorable Lado.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Lado Sleja is my name, and I'm representing.
Are you a member of that committee? You are not a member of defense. Okay.
I'm representing Suleja Gurarata for Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support and second the motion as amended by Honorable Waves. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Okay. Those in support of the amendment, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The nays have it. The third amendment is that the service chiefs should honorably resign from their positions with immediate effect to allow for fresh ideas and new hands. Any seconder? Honorable Elumelu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I represent the good people of Anocho Shimli Federal Constituency.
Nobody can hear you. Are you playing politics? Nobody can hear you. Speak up. Let everybody hear you.
Maybe the service chiefs are here, so. I remain Honorable Dudi Godwin Elumelu, and I represent the good people of Anocho Shimli Federal Constituency. I am proudly from Delta State. I rise to second to the motion that all the service chiefs should resign. I so second.
I know we said that we won't open the door for debate, Honorable Elumelu. We did say that we will not open the door for debate on the issue of amendments. But because we're doing something serious here, something very, very serious, I really want to know the opinion. I'm putting me in a very, very difficult situation. I'm putting me in a very tight situation. But because this matter is important and we should not shy away or we should take prisoners. I mean, I want to ask the chairman defense what he feels about this particular issue, about the resignation of the service chiefs. I know you guys work together, but I'd like to know your candid opinion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the privilege. I think that our laws allows Mr. President to keep the service chiefs at his behest. But unfortunately, looking through what has happened, for instance, the NSA is from Maiduguri. He can't get to his village. The Chief of Army Staff is from Maiduguri, from Bono as well. He cannot get to his village. It's a big, the Chief of Air Staff as well is from the northeast. They can't get to their villages as well. And the chief, so in my opinion, sir, I think that speaks volumes to their inability to take us to the next level. But however, the discretion lies with the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. I do not know what he's seen or why he has retained them till date. So we've elected him to be our Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. So I personally am bound by his judgment. But however, our motion is advisory. It can prick his conscience. It can make him also have a 360 review of whether to retain them or not. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Very brilliant submission. You've spoken like a true Lagosian. Constitutional point of order? Yes.
Somebody.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is understandable that the chairman, defense, would cede the security and order in Nigeria to the conscience of Mr. President. It's understandable. He would ordinarily be wanting to be a good boy and a good member of the party. But Mr. Speaker, the Constitution is very clear with regard to the responsibility of government. It doesn't shake. And it says, the the participation, that is section 14C of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that the participation by the people in their government shall be ensured in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. Participation of the people. If the collective wisdom of members of this parliament, as evidenced in our contributions, is such that the law should be observed, it is not something you said. We represent 260 million Nigerians, and our duty is to reflect their opinion on what happens in Nigeria. We are hurting. We are simply asking Mr. President. We are not asking him to replace or sack. We are asking him to obey the law, not in breach, but by making sure that the tenure of these service chiefs, guided by law, is observed. It's as simple as that. That is what the law provides, and that is what the wish of people from Nigeria, as expressed by the collective wisdom of this parliament, presupposes. So it should not be subject to the conscience of Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. There's a point I want clarification on. The tenure of the service chiefs. Are you saying that by a fluctuation of time, it has expired and is not renewable? Does the law say it is not renewable? Right. So, if the law says it's not renewable, so it cannot automatically kick in by operation of law that they must leave. So I think Honorable Jimmy Benson is right. You know, the word participation, is so different from that you can participate in the running of the government. But we've heard the phrase, where the buck stops. As Commander-in-Chief, not as President, as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the buck stops at Mr. President's desk. Yes, we can, and that's the essence of separation of powers as well. We can participate, and that's exactly what Honorable Jimmy Benson has just done. He has participated by saying, this is what I feel, this is where I feel, and this whole house has said it too, as a matter of fact. So I don't think, just as we wouldn't want something taken away from any chairman of this committee or any leader, I think we should continue to put pressure, which is what the House wants, that the service chiefs have spent their time, and they need to go if that is the decision of the House. And so yes, Chairman, Business and Rules.
Mr. Speaker, more points. It was Albert Einstein who said, stupidity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Over the years, 2015 to date, the same strategy, tactics and strategies being deployed to achieve the results of dealing with insurgency. But in the end, the same failure is being achieved. And therefore, automatically, whether their tenure has expired or not, they have completely outlived their usefulness, and they must go.
Yes.
That's the point, Mr. Sen.
I think we're all in agreement. I was just picking up the point of law. We just wanted to know whether you are totally, absolutely on point. So we'll just put the question. Those in support of the amendment, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Mansour, you have an amendment.
Mr. Speaker, Mansour Manu Soro, Darazuganjo Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my amendment is as follows. That is, to to call on the executive arm of the government to revisit the security arrangement that Nigeria has with the Belarus security group prior to 2015 with the bill to renewing that security arrangement. I so submit.
Any seconder? Honorable Victor, second, please.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I remain Vincent Ekene Ufumelu, member representing the people of Oyi and I am a federal constituency of Anambra State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the amendments, heavily moved by my colleague. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable colleagues.
Those in support, please say aye. Those in support of the motion, the amendment, sorry, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. No ayes, no nays. Those in support of the amendment is, for clarity, that we call on the executive arm of the government to revisit the security arrangement between the government and that was put in place by the Jonathan administration, between the government and Belarus security group, which was suspended in 2015, for the government to revisit it with the view of re-engaging them. Any seconder? There is no seconder. Okay, you've already seconded. Okay, those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Shetima, you had an observation about the contradiction.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I remain Lord Shetima Ali, representing Bursari Gairemi Nusari Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, the motion the amendment being put by our colleague that we just passed, I think it's like placing the horse, cart before the horse. We have equally moved, we just amended that there should be tripartite meeting of the National Assembly leadership with the service chief and then Mr. President. So I think pending the outcome of that particular meeting, there shouldn't be any call for them to either resign or do whatever. So until you people sit down to find out what has happened, the real sense.
No, sir.
I think this is what I'm saying.
Then the motion must be specific. If you are saying something,
it's like we are for
yes, the observation is after the fact, but it's also an important observation so that we don't contradict ourselves. What Honorable Shetima is saying is that we passed a motion asking for a tripartite meeting between National Assembly leadership, the President, and the service chiefs. Now, after passing that unanimously, we then passed another amendment that the service chiefs should resign with immediate effect. There is an inherent contradiction, no doubt. But I think, first of all, let me move that we suspend our rules. Minority Leader, second. Is that okay? Minority Leader, move. Somebody second. They don't want me to move. All right, no problem. Minority Leader, move that we suspend our rules because we are going to do one or two things here.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not trying to support anything. I'm trying to make some clarifications. Office is office. It's immaterial who occupies the office. If we say we are going to meet with the service chiefs, even if they sack them, the ones that are there now, Mr. President can immediately put those in acting capacity. And people can still meet those people. Hold on, please. Hold on, please. Service chief is an office, not individuals. Please, let us be very straight. It's an entity that remains. The individual comes and goes. The office remains. So if we're saying meet with the office, with Mr. President, the service chiefs, not all of them showed up. But some people came and represented the office.
But we sent them away. We sent them away. And then they came back, yeah. We could not hold that meeting.
In this case, if Mr. President sacks those that are there now, I don't expect that there will be a vacuum.
I get your point. But let me ask you this. What is the purpose, or what will be the purpose of the tripartite meeting?
When if they relieve the ones that are there now, the purpose, one, is to ascertain the true position of things happening in those areas. Two, what are their constraints? It must not be those that are there now. In fact, those ones, they don't go to the war front. Those who give them information are the ones in war front. So when they are going to give that information, the people that are there will still get the information. That is.
There is further and additional particulars. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Can we suspend our rules first, please? Let's do this right. Yeah. So no. Let's suspend our rules so we can take this thing, as we want it. Please move, and then you can second, and then you can give us your further. If we don't suspend our rules, we cannot even revisit this issue. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I remain honorable to the Godwin Elubelu. I'm from Delta State. I move that will suspend our rule for the purpose of deleting the aspect of having meeting with the service chiefs.
We are suspending our rules for the purpose of a proper resolution to this motion. Honorable second.
Honorable colleagues, Odebo Mishekun is my name. I represent the good people of Zulu.
You second the motion moved by the minority leader as amended by the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. Odebo Mishekun is my name. I represent the good people of Zulu local government. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the amendment as moved by the minority leader and as amended by honorable Speaker. I so second.
Thank you. The ayes have it. So, Honorable Toby, your point, your better particulars.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues. I do not think, the mover of the amendment is from the Northeast. He has seen things work. And when he says...
No. Mover of which amendment? No.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I want to second the motion.
That will delete. No, you move the one.
Well, originally I was supposed to.
Yes, you are more interested in Honorable Mansour's motion, right? You are more interested in Honorable Mansour's motion to revisit the Belarus agreement.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, ordinarily I would say
that there has not been any proper motion for any amendment on the floor. Essentially, Shegun was seconding a motion that was not properly moved. The speaker cannot ordinarily move a motion. He's supposed to take a decision. He's an umpire.
Unfortunately for you, the question has been put and the House has given an answer. Honorable Shetima, so your observation is that we have two contradicting motions. One for a tripartite agreement which involves the service chiefs, and then the second one we are saying that the service chiefs will immediately, as of immediate effect, resign. I think there's a simple answer to that, and he's right. So I think what we need to do, that's why I asked that we suspend their rules so that we can go back and forth, because we have to get this right. That's why what I think we should do is just simply remove the two words immediate effect. So it still serves the same purpose. We're asking them to resign. So after the meeting, the tripartite meeting, whatever of us they can still resign based on our, it solves the problem. It's the immediate effect that is an issue. Yes, we delete immediate effect. Clerk, please, delete immediate effect. Honorable Benson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have an issue with the tripartite meeting, sir. Mr. President meets with the service chiefs on a regular basis. I think it would be more appropriate, sir, if the leadership of the House meets with the service chiefs, whatever resolution, whatever outcome, then we can take to the executives. If need be, we may request the service chiefs to be present. But asking a tripartite meeting with the executive, the National Assembly, and Mr. President already knows where the shoe pinches because he meets with them regularly. We don't.
Yeah, two things here. Even though we have suspended our rules so we can revisit whatever, even though we have suspended that, but you know, like they say, yes, Mr. President meets with the service chiefs, but they say two heads are better than one, therefore 3 heads are even better or best. So I don't think there will be anything we'll be losing if the 3 bodies meet. We've debated here extensively. So if the service chiefs are telling Mr. President, which is part of what we debated here, many people were saying, Honorable Sada Soli mentioned how people are advising the president perhaps wrongly, then we will be there as leadership to interject. So I think the 3-way meeting is way better than the 2-way meeting. Honorable Anyofok.
Mr. Speaker, sir, Luke Onofiok, a tenant Nsaribom Surubium Federal Constituency, Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, the basis upon which this House has called for the resignation of the service chiefs is not performance. How do you intend to go with the chairman of the National Assembly, which is the Senate President, and your humble self to meet with Mr. President and see how the people that we have asked or we have passed a judgment that they've not performed to sit on the same meeting? So I want to appeal, Mr. Speaker, that if we have taken a decision, now we've suspended the rules, can we just delete the fact of asking the service chiefs to join in that meeting? Let the meeting be only between the leadership of the National Assembly and Mr. President. And then we leave the service chiefs, which we have collectively asked by reason of the motion or resolution that we have, the question that you have put that have been answered in the affirmative, that they are not qualified to continue in their offices. Those are my humble submissions, Mr. Speaker.
But the problem with your argument is that does that mean moving, see, this should not be knee-jerk, moving forward from here, does that mean monies should not be released to the service chiefs? Does that mean, no. If you are saying that we've asked them to leave and therefore we shouldn't have anything to do with them, because it's contradictory. We can't say we've asked somebody to leave and not have anything to do with them. I think we may be creating more problems because they still. What if they decide to leave, or what if they decide not to leave? What do you do? So let us go to the meeting and physically, that's how serious this matter is, hand them our resolution in case they say they didn't hear. Many of us accept court processes. Many people accept court processes. And they said they are not heard about it. They were not served. Let us serve them personally when we get to the meeting. Hi. Is Jaha here? No, he's not here. Yes. I know. Maki, what's your... Yeah, go ahead, Honorable Maki.
Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, I remain Maki Abubakar Eleman. I represent Malam Maduri Kaugama, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I'm from Jigawa State. My amendment is that Committee of Defense and other related committee should invite the Minister of Defense and other related stakeholders to come, yes, that's what I'm saying, to come up with a report and submit to the leadership of this honorable chamber so that they can consolidate it and meet the Senate so they can go and see the president with it. That's my amendment, sir. Instead of the leadership to go and meet the president, let the committee do their own homework first and report to the leadership. Then from there, the leadership can take it up to the president, sir.
I believe you have already been meeting with them anyway, and I think your chairman said so during his debate. I think you've already been meeting with them because if we're talking about urgency, it will take some time for you to start, invite them, have a meeting before we take the report to Mr. President, unless you're saying that the leadership should not meet Mr. President until another 4, 5, 6 weeks. But I think but I believe you have already been meeting with them, and you should already have Honorable Benson, have you not been meeting? You said so during your debate.
Yes, I said that we've been meeting with them, and as a matter of fact, we are supposed to be having a meeting with them next week, with the minister, the CDS, and other service chiefs, with the relevant committees. We're supposed to be meeting with them next week again on this issue, but we wanted to feel the pulse of the House today, to hear from Honorable Zana, Honorable Shetima. They further giving us additional information that we would use to confront the service chiefs. So we had additional information. For instance, today, we were also informed that the Chadian army that used to maintain peace in Borno, they've left. They're no longer made the place more porous and more vulnerable. So those are additional information we want to confront the service chiefs with next week. So I think, sir, that rubbing minds with them on a last time basis will give us additional information that would add to the House. So when you're going to see the executive, you'll be on top of the current issues that we're facing there. Thank you.
Honorable Raji, where are you going with Princess? Where are you going with the fact that your chairman House Services does not give you license to just be... Please, Princess, take your seat. Honorable Raji. I beg your pardon? Princess, please, for now, come and take your seat here in the front row here. Honorable Luke, I'm sure you heard Honorable Benson's submission. You see, this is why I was saying that we cannot, because we put down that we should, they should resign. They should resign. If we follow Honorable Luke's argument, that means you cannot even meet with them. That means you cannot even meet with them if we follow Honorable Luke's argument. Now, the amendment is that the committee of defense should meet with the service chiefs, get more information from them, which will equip the leadership to go to the president with. So how do we get that information if we want to rely solely on our resolution that they should resign? In fact, thinking about it, maybe the resolution should be withdrawn, sir. But anyway. So, second, Honorable Jimmy Benson, you want to second your deputy's amendment? No, he has a motion on the ground now. Are you seconding it? No, there's this. No, because this is for a purpose. It's for a purpose that has been debated here. And that purpose is for us to have more, in case to have more, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I remain Baba Jimmy Benson. I stand to second the motion, the amendment ably moved by Honorable Maki Elema, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Defense. I so second.
Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay.
Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable colleagues, please, we shouldn't turn this security issue into political activities. What we are saying is this, sir. It's the gravity of this security issue that made me to call on the Speaker, along with the Senate President, to meet Mr. President as well as the service team immediately after this session. So, this is the nature. We have to show concern about the plight of our people. That's the reason. But when we are taking this unnecessary bureaucratic steps, it won't take us anywhere. Let's allow things to work, please. Let them immediately after closing this session look for appointment with Mr. President, along with the security chief. Whatever they are going to do, let them finish it today and tomorrow, so that we get a result. But what we are saying now is for us to prolong, putting committees to go and meet. When will they submit report? So that
it's okay. It's okay. Shajima, we have already put the question anyway. The nays have it. We put the question already. Honorable Jaha is not here. Okay. But I'm going to put Honorable Jaha's question, even the motion, even is not here. So I don't know where that leaves us with our earlier motion. His motion is, or his amendment rather, is for immediate removal of service chiefs and their immediate replacement with other competent and qualified persons in the military and other services. So that now this is, no, your resolution is resignation. Here is talking about that they should be removed. There's a difference. So, no, okay, you want to move that? So how does that affect the earlier resolution of, move the motion. Move the motion. Yeah. Give it to the minority leader to move. Clap. Let's give this to the minority leader to move. What's your observation?
So what's your observation?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Onofio Luke, once again. Mr. Speaker, I believe that this House, and I know right from when we inaugurated, this house is populated by eggheads, people who are sound and people who have the intellectual acumen, that we cannot be seen to approbate and reprobate at the same time, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that is the same point I wanted to make even before we took a decision as it concerns the meeting of the House with the service chiefs and the issue of resignation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think that this would be a matter of surplusage if we begin to take this other amendment. Already, we will be seen from speaking from both sides. We've already taken a position. The first position, which is captured by the resolution of this House, is that they should resign. And for us to come and take this amendment again and say that they should be sacked is, Mr. Speaker, I think is us erring on the side of surplusage. I would plead with Mr. Speaker, sir, that we stand by the earlier resolution of this House, that the resignation of the service chiefs, instead of taking this other motion, because unless we are going to rescind the other position that we took as it concerns their resignation, Mr. Speaker.
I think the amendment can be phrased in such a way that you don't contradict yourself. We can, as we did earlier on, incorporate that amendment, that resolution into this by saying, or in the event that they do not, because you cannot compel their resignation. So, or in the event that they do not, then, so there's no contradiction there. It only reinforces what the House is saying is that they vacate. So however they do it, it only enforces the House's resolution. Who's moving it? Let's get this amendment first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I want to rephrase my name is Abubakar Samfulata. I represent Birniwa, Krika Samaguri Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa State. I want to rephrase the amendment as follows. We call for the immediate resignation of all the service chiefs, failing which they are to do, the President should remove them immediately. I so move.
Honorable Elumelu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Honorable Ndudi Godwin Elmelo, and I represent the good people of our North Oshimili Federal Constituency. I rise to second the motion as to the effect that the service chief immediately resign, and failure to resign, that Mr. President, in his good intention for Nigerians to have security, should immediately replace them with competent hands to fight the insurgency. I so second.
Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Yusuf Gagdi is not here. Honorable Odemomi, it's the same amendment, right? Okay, the first one. Okay, yes. We'll take yours last, because it involves minute silence, so we'll take yours last. Okay, I think that was the last amendment. So yes, go ahead. Honorable Debumi, that was the last amendment. So go ahead, move your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleague, Odebumi Shegun is my name. I represent the good people of Surulere Regular Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, no matter how the pains and no matter how bitter we are, I think it is important also to give the last respect to a few Nigerians that might have lost their life in the last few weeks of the new attacks of the Boko Haram. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I want to move that the House do observe a minute silence for the lost one that has lost their life in the last attack by the Boko Haram. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is what I went.
Chief, if you want to second.
Honorable Speaker,
Speaker, honored members, my name is Mohamed Tahir Munguno. I represent Martin Munguno, Ganze Federal Constituency of Borno State. I support the motion ably moved by Chairman, Information Committee.
Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. No? Those in favor of the motion as amended, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable colleagues, as per our resolution, can we please rise for 1 minute silence for those who have lost their lives? May the soul of the departed rest in peace. Honorable Raji, we swore in 6 members this morning, so I don't understand why you are only interested in handling the affairs of one of them. Where are the remaining 5? Yes. Yes. The question to you is, where are the other members that were sworn in? Honorable colleagues, well, I hope you know you just insulted the person sitting next to you. Did she tell you she was vulnerable? Did she tell you she's vulnerable? Somebody that just won an election in Imo State is vulnerable? Princess, please sit next to Honorable Mongono, the Chief Whip. Honorable Mongono is harmless. And is the Chief Whip. He will organize everything for you. Honorable Chairman House Services, we have a member from Kano, a PDP member from Kano. I want you to personally attend to his needs, to make sure his office is taken care of, his seat is allocated. You take care of the member from Kano. Very good. I think it's time to reshuffle the House Services Committee. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Chairman, Business and Rules, can you move for adjournment?
Before adjournment, sir, I want to move, sir, that we schedule those aspects of the order paper that we will not take for tomorrow. Yeah, you know, there are a lot of items on the order paper that we could not take. So I move that we, yeah, so we have to rule on that. As well, sir.
Honorable Deputy, can you second, please?
Speaker,
Okay, motion that all other business of the day be stepped down. Moved and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay.
Honorable colleagues, my name is Abubakar Saflata. I represent Brniwa, Greek Kasama, Good Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Jigawa State. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do adjourn to tomorrow, Thursday, 30th of January 2020, 11 a.m. I so move.
Honorable Deputy, can you second, please?
thank you, Mr. Speaker, Honorable colleague. Deputy Secretary is my name. Representing good people of Surulere Ogula Federal Constituency. I rise to second the motion as moved by the Rules and Business Chairman to adjourn the House to tomorrow. Thank you.
Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. House adjourned till 11 a.m. tomorrow.